I don't entirely know what that means yet. Like, I know I'm working on this book.
My dog just went nuts. I don't know if you can hear him.
I can
He's having a case of the zoomies, and he's 12. Sorry about that.
I mean, not as funny as when the cat ran through our event in San Diego.
Yes, that was a whole thing.
Sabrosura pa' que.
Hola, manis. Welcome to Café con Pam, where we share our stories over cafecito. Yo soy Pam, and we bring you inspiring stories from first generation, Latinas, and people of the global majority. Of course, I'm going to invite you to subscribe, hit the like button, ring the bell, do all the things so you don't miss another cafecito. Of course, for more incredible stories, you can tune into the podcast, Café con Pam. Bueno, el día de hoy, we have a conversation with Ashley K. Stoyanov Ojeda, who is a multicultural business strategist, best-selling author, speaker, and community builder. And she's helped thousands of underrepresented entrepreneurs and thought leaders grow their businesses, amplify their impact, and establish themselves as industry leaders. Originally from Queens, New York, with Mexican and French American roots, and she is the author of Jefa in Training, the business startup toolkit for entrepreneurial and creative women. And also, she's a creator of La Hoja, a newsletter delivering personal and professional development insights. Y bueno, this conversation was a lot of fun. Ashley has already been on the podcast. And so, if you want to dive into her story, check out the longer episode. This one is more of a catch up. And we talk about a lot of things. So, I'm not going to delay this any longer. Here's my conversation with Ashley. Ashley, welcome back to Café con Pam.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored and grateful that I get to be here again.
Yeah, I'm so excited to talk to you again about what's next for you. But we can't, like, our existence is challenged at this point. And so we can't start without addressing how we really are. So how are you really?
You know, that is a great question. I think taking it day by day, as most of us probably are at this point, and really trying to keep my vision strong.
Mm,
And I mean, we're both really community oriented people, and so my vision is really tied to always being able to create opportunities and close gaps for my community. And it's it's interesting, right? Because people like us who have started to create impact but also find a way to make a living and make money by creating impact, it's really hard when perhaps in the future the funding that was once existed to create this
mm,
impact won't be there,
mm-hmm.
because we're caught in a tough spot because the work that we do, just because the funding's not there doesn't mean that it doesn't still need to be done. In fact, it probably means that it needs to be done even more.
Yes.
And yet we're still here, going to continue showing up and do the work. And where does that leave us financially? And I think I've been thinking about that a lot, like how my business is going to change, and not just mine, because a lot of my clients,
Mm-hmm.
change makers work with change makers, right? And so a lot of my clients have also been affected. I mean, I have 2 or 3 clients in the last week who literally, quite literally overnight lost 90% of their income
Oh,
because contracts were just being canceled or paused. And I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. And so it's been a lot. Um, and yet I don't feel panicked. It's been a lot, but that's how I am.
thank you for sharing and your candor. I think I've been having these conversations offline with a lot of people that I know, friends in the same realm of work, and it's it's kind of like the same answer in a different way, like, it sucks, and what else can we do, like, other than keep going?
Mhm.
And I think hearing you, I I think of one of my clients once was like, "So I did the math, and, like, I don't know how you live." And I'm like, "Well, I don't live off you. I live of consulting, and I live off of, like, other places and spaces that pay me." And to your point of how many contracts were canceled, I think this would, if we were to say this is a call, this would be more than ever to actually support brown and black businesses. This would be the time to be like, well, now we can actually potentially, support each other in a good way, not to depend on the things that are out of our control, but how could we support one another, like, much more radically and much more consciously and with much more awareness to where
Mhm.
we drop our coins.
Yeah. Yeah, and I keep saying things, and I've had 2 book signings in, like, the last week or so, and I was not planning on getting political, but at this point, like, how can you not, right?
Our existence is political.
Yeah, and, like, you're in front of these people who are reading your words, and they're kinda looking to you for guidance, right? And I said something at both of my signings that was like, "No one's coming to save us," and I know that sounds really harsh. Like, that sounds really harsh and maybe what people didn't wanna hear coming to see me, but my point is that if we keep waiting around for laws and systems to change to be able to help us, we're going to be waiting around a really long time. And quite frankly, like, I don't know if I will even see the impact of the work that I do in my lifetime. And I think that that stops a lot of people from doing it because they're like, "Oh, well, we're working so hard and we're not even gonna get to see it because all these laws and things and blah, 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 blah." And as someone who has been thinking a lot about the next generation and, starting a family and this and that, like, even if you don't wanna have kids, right? Like, just think maybe we won't see it, but they will. I mean, I hope.
Mhm.
Right? We hope, and so it's just we've gotta hold on to something, and I think for me, that's been it.
Totally, I agree. And I think we live in the era of, I think it's we're weaning ourselves out of it a little bit, but we do still exist in the times of high success expectations, grind, grit, like, immediate gratification. I mean, we live in the time of the scroll,
Mhm,
and at the end of the day, I agree totally. I'm not going to repeat what you said, but yes, it's a question of what is the ultimate impact. And I mean, like, Cafe Con Pam has been around for almost 10 years, and
mhm,
there's still a lot of people that don't know I exist, like, a lot. And am I gonna, like, weep and cry about not having access, or am I going to keep creating, and then maybe one day somebody will see it and it might help it? And I think of the new generation that you mentioned. I went and taught a class at UCSD recently, and a student came after and they were like, I have this idea and I really wanted to create it, but there's already so many people doing it. And I'm like, so what? Do it. That just shows you that people want it.
mhm,
So go do it. El sol sale para todos. Go do it. Don't worry about it. Competition is great. Competition is
mhm,
so good. I love competition. I think it's like there's no such thing as competition. I don't believe in competition. It's more like peers. It's people
mhm.
that do similar things. And, like, if you do strawberry and I do grape, well, let's do it. You
Let's
know?
do it together.
Yeah. Why not? We can just share resources, which is, I think, to bring it back to what we were talking about, is this is more than ever a time to stick together and support each other.
And create together, right? I feel like a lot of new ideas and collaborations are going to come out of this whatever this is that we're going through right now. I don't even know what to call it, but whatever this is, I do believe that a lot of a lot of creative things are going to happen.
I think so too. Speaking of creating things, so we are now in the second edition of Heaven Training.
We are.
Tell
We
us
are.
about it. How did this come about? So I'm very curious about why didn't Ashley write in a book instead?
Okay, I'm gonna be very honest because I'm always very honest on the Café con Pam podcast. Last time I even cried. We
Yes.
might get there today. Um, well, I'm always very honest, but now I will be even more honest because I think, maybe a lot of people listening to this and you as well might wanna write a book one day. And so I am gonna go a little bit into, like, the behind the scenes of publishing and what people don't see, what authors often shield them from. And quite honestly, it's been a lot of, I don't wanna say drama, but there is some tea.
Mm.
So, the whole 2nd edition came about because, essentially, we ran out of the 1st edition copies, like, the print, and I think the print that they did 2 prints, and the last print was, like, for, like, 5 or 6,000 books. So, yay, that's awesome.
Yay.
However, I don't have access to, like, keep track of how many books there are left, like, I don't have access to any of that information, so I have to rely on my publisher. My publisher, for the last few years, has been going through a lot of, staffing changes,
Mm.
and, to be quite frank, they abandoned me.
You got lost in the shuffle.
I got lost in the shuffle. Long story short, no one was paying attention to how many books were left until there were only maybe like 200 copies of Jefa left in its original form, and they were somewhere in Australia. Like, I don't know. And so, I think it was like around Hispanic Heritage Month, and I was like trying to do all these orders for gigs and things that I was doing, and they were taking forever. And I was like, where are my books? What's happening? And all of a sudden, the an editor at my publisher called me and she was like, "Hey, like, I think it's time to think about a second edition of your book." And I was like, "Okay, I don't know what that's about, but sure, let's talk about it." So when publishers run out of books, two things can happen with the book. They can decide to just like backlist it and just like forget about it, and it's print on demand for like ever, which is really annoying for authors who do a lot of events and need books constantly because it takes a really long time to get them
Yeah.
and they're not marketed and whatever. So, like, that is option one. Option two is these books get a re-edition. So, the opportunity to update the book. And at that point in time, they also reevaluate the cost of what it is to make this book. And something that we had discussed in that initial call is that if we were to do Kefan training the way that it was printed originally, which was in color,
Mm-hmm.
which everybody loved, it's like a really huge part of the book's personality, I feel like.
It's very much
Yes. If we would have kept it the same, they would have had to increase the price of the book like $3,
good. Oof.
which, to us, it's like $3, that's half a latte, right? Or not even, like,
Now it's half a
okay.
latte. It used to be one full latte.
But like, it's more of an issue when it comes to trying to get orders from bookstores and other retailers.
Right.
'Cause Jefa actually, as it was already quite pricey for the kind of book that it was, like
Mm.
22.95 for a paperback, for a workbook. Like, the math doesn't really math, and by a first-time author, not a celebrity, so what would happen is all these big bookstores would have the books on their website that you could order from, so available everywhere, but they would not actually put them in the store where people could find them because they didn't wanna risk ordering books that might not sell.
Yeah.
And so, this editor had um, suggested perhaps doing a black and white version. And at first, I hated that idea because I was like, no, the color is so much like it's such people look at the book and they're like, this is a really pretty book. I want it.
Mm.
And I'm like, what if it loses that spark, that magic? And then she talked me through all this retail stuff and how lowering the cost of the book would be able to get it into more stores and where the community actually is and the Walmarts and the Targets and the no sé qué and all this stuff, right? And I had to really sit with my ego and be like, I'm like, do I wanna obsess over the fact that the book is not in color anymore, or do I want to make it accessible for more people and hope that more stores will actually order it now so that more of our community can find it? And so that is why we decided to do the black and white version. And to make things even more complicated, she told me that the updates had were due in 2 months. And I was like, "Well, how many updates am I gonna be able to make in 2 months?" Because we wanted to try to get it out by the end of the year because there were no copies left.
Right.
Um, and so that being said, we did what we could with the updates, and I am probably most proud and most grateful for the opportunity to have Beatriz Acevedo write the foreword because I will never in my life forget the moment I reached out to her to endorse the first edition like 4 years ago.
Mhm.
I was so nervous. I was just, like, sitting in my computer, and I'm like, "Should I send it? Should I send it? I don't know. I'm so scared." And that one email just changed, like, so much for me. Like, and I just and now it's crazy and, like, full circle, right? Because, like, we work with each other on a bunch of different campaigns and events, and when I asked her to write the foreword, she said, "Anything for you, amiga." And I was like,
Aw.
"Oh." I was like, "Oh my god, am I dreaming? Pinch me." And so it's been really great, and I wrote a whole new intro for the second edition that kind of explains a lot of what I've learned and the impact of the book so far, and updates to my story, and just, like, important things that I wanted to share with the readers, going forward that perhaps I missed the first time around in terms of the importance of a book like this. So I'm excited for people to read those insights too, um, because I just feel like people have been following me along this journey of being an author, and it's been really exciting.
Super fun. And so the book comes out, is it out already?
Yeah, it came out January 14th.
Nice. So people can find it, request it,
Yes.
ask for it everywhere.
Ask for it everywhere. Exactly. Exactly.
Bookshop.org, we love them.
Mhm.
Local bookstores,
Mhm.
local libraries.
Yes, request it at your library.
It's always, I don't know if people realize, and every time I interview authors, I'm like, remember to ask for it at your local library because they don't typically they order more than one copy.
Mhm.
And so that helps the authors a lot because if like tell your primas to request it too, because then they can have like, 10 copies of the library and you can have a book club.
Right. Exactly. Oh my gosh, invite me to your book clubs. I wanna do more book clubs this year.
Yes. So, okay, the new edition is out. What do you hope people now with this edition, which changed a little bit?
Mhm.
What's the
Mhm.
invite? Go start your business, make shit happen. Let's go.
Yes, that and especially right now, um, I think a lot of the times we, or at least I, got caught up in, not thinking that I knew enough or had enough resources to be able to start something, which is why I wrote the book in the first place, right? Is to show people that you can at least have this book and have some kind of roadmap starting, right? And get familiar with the stories of people like you who have done similar things and took a risk on themselves, right? Because as we were talking about, if we don't try to make things better for ourselves, like
Totally.
I think that we have more control over our lives than we think. And with everything that's happening, I think that's easy to forget.
So easy to forget. And I think boundaries are necessary. Like I I have a co-working space. It's open 24/7, so people can join at any moment. And I'm there typically like the majority of the day. And I put in the chat like, "Oh my gosh, I got so distracted. I got like sucked into like a new story, but like let me just get regulated and get back to it." And one of my clients was like, "Remember to do what you can control. And what you can control is that you don't need to be stuck to the news all the time." And I'm like, "Look at that. Look at the student teaching the teacher now. How fun
I
is
love
that?"
it when that happens.
I know, and I'm like, "Shit." So how are you creating boundaries to stay grounded in that truth of, I can control what I can control, and the external things, they're out of my control, while still being kinda, like, connected to what we care about, which is the gente.
Yeah, I mean, I think since everything that is happening is affecting so much our community and our families, and our clients and whatever in our own work, right? It's kind of hard to ignore
Mhm.
because like we're in it. We're in it. We can't even get out of it. We're in it. Um but what I have been trying to do is, like while I'm working, stuff is going to come up, right? Like, oh, this client canceled this event because budgets got cut, or these three speaking leads that I had are no longer leads because their programs no longer exist. Okay, these things are going to happen. But when I log off for the day, I'm done. Like, I'm done. I'm done until the next time I'm at my computer working, because if not, what will we be doing? We'll just be on our phones all day being like, "Ah." You know?
In the doom of it.
Yeah, and, like, I this might sound, like, really naive to some people, but I'm just keep telling myself, like, I am really hoping that all of this is really just temporary, right?
I mean, it's 4 years.
We hope.
As far as we know, it's 4
We hope.
years.
We're just hanging on to that, and so I think that we somehow cannot let this, um, take up our whole life, because there are still, like, happy and joyful things and moments that we could be having, um, and life goes by so fast,
Yeah,
you know?
totally. Hold on to the glimmers.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree 100%. I've been posting like glimmers of like joy. And like
Mhm.
yesterday when I went to teach at the college, they gave me a reserved spot with my name.
Oh,
And I'm like, look at
get
that.
fancy.
Look how fancy do I feel for 24 hours?
That's very VIP.
It's very VIP. And like helps, I think maybe that's the invite that we're giving people is find those little tiny moments of joy that you can hold on to, and you can look back to say, day was hard, but I had a parking spot with my name on it,
Yep,
you know?
exactly.
Day was hard, but my coffee was delicious.
Mhm,
Day was hard, and maybe let's do the and like the sun was coming through my window, and it gave me that little like I
mhm,
want to be a cat and lay on the floor and bask in the sun type thing.
mhm.
I love that invitation. So what's next for Ashley?
Oh, well, I am working on another book.
We knew that.
Something, yes, something, a little bit out of the ordinary for me, but it was
Is it fiction?
no, not yet, not yet. I'm not there
Okay.
yet. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. But it's actually a history book. So I was commissioned this. My publisher, they work on this series called the Book of Awesome. So they have like the Book of Awesome Girls, the Book of Awesome Black Women, the Book of Awesome LGBTQ plus, like et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right. And so I got commissioned to write the Book of Awesome Latinas,
Yes.
and I'll be writing it with my dear friend Myrtle Peña Calderon, who is the founder of Latinidad Collective, a media publication, also ex editor of People Chica, People en Español. That's actually how we met because she featured me on
Nice.
there a couple of times. And it's going to be an approachable history book spotlighting 88 Latinas from across the globe, past and present, to talk about their accomplishments and really why they should be not ignored in history.
I love that. When is that coming out?
Fall of this year, no dates so far, but we're aiming for Hispanic Heritage Month.
Fun.
Yes.
Well, maybe you can come to Cafe Compam live and talk.
I know Myrtle would love to do that. I think you two would very much vibe.
Cafe Compam live is in October.
Oh, that's exciting. We might have to do that.
I mean, we're in the planning stages, so we can totally make it happen. And if not, we can do another one of these. Definitely, I would love to talk about that because it's so needed.
Yeah, I guess, when I got approached about the book, well, I guess you asked me what's next, right? And what's next is I think I really want to focus this year on writing more. So I have a Substack called La Hoja, and I have decided to create three different sections so I could talk about all of the different parts of my life in La Hoja. And originally, I started the Substack as like an extension of my book, but you know, I wrote Jefa 5 years ago.
Hmm.
I'm a very different
She's a
person
different
now.
person now.
I'm a different person now, and so for me to obviously the theme and the content of Jefa will always be important, right? And the
Mm,
message and the call to action, but there is so much more to me than just that book, and I'm trying not, and I don't want to say just that book because it's an amazing book and I'm very proud of her. But there is just so much more to me as a person and as a professional and as a thought leader that I want to share.
mm.
And I really want to do that through my Substack. And I have this whole memoir concept that I've been talking about for like the last 6 months, and I don't know what's happening with that, but we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see. But and obviously, of course, continuing to work with thought leaders and change makers to help them grow their businesses and help them write books. I'd love to help some more people write their books. Um,
Okay. So much in your universe. I love
all
it.
the things, all the things. But yeah, just continuing to create resources for the community, be a resource for everyone at this time. Um, I think that's all we can do.
Agreed. So tell us all the places and spaces where you can find you.
On Instagram, Threads, and LinkedIn, and it's just my name, Ashley K. Stoyanov Ojeda. Those are probably my more active platforms, and my website has all the information on how you can work with me. So ashleykstojanoffojeda.com.
Amazing. Well, Ashley, it was a pleasure to have you back at Kava
Thank
Compam.
you. Thank you.
Can't wait to stay in touch and hear more about all the awesome things you're doing.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I can't wait to be back.
Thank you. Thank you. Bueno, I hope the conversation was inspiring for you and you are leaving with lots of notes, and drop the comments. Tell me how you really feel as you do on YouTube. And of course, if you're ready to go deeper, you can join the Cafe Con Pam Supporters Club. You get access to additional episodes, sometimes longer episodes. And this allows you to support us so that we can continue to keep growing. It's only $5 a month, and the link is in the description. It's a great and easy way to support us. Of course, the easiest way to support us is to subscribe, to leave comments, to share this with the people that you love. Y bueno, If you want a little more, you can go to Supporters Club. Until next time, stay grounded, stay connected, y como siempre, sigue brillando. Nos vemos en nuestro próximo cafecito.
Sabrosura pa' ti que